We are live. Good to see you today again, my EOS Podcast friends. We have a cool show for you today with Daniel. We're from EOS Nation. We're going to talk about the EOS Referendum, what it is, what's going on with it, and a little bit about EOS Nation and EOS in general. So welcome to the show, Daniel, and go ahead and introduce yourself.
Hey, thanks for having me, Brent. I'm always happy to share my perspective with the EOS community. It's an exciting time, both for myself and for the community, I think, now that we have for the first time, a way for token holders to have a direct say in the direction of the EOS network development. As I'm sure most of your listeners know, we're a delegated proof of stake chain. And up until this point, the only opportunity token holders had to influence was through voting for block producers. And it was essentially up to 15 out of 21 block producers to make any changes to the network. Now those 15 out of 21 block producers have a way to get a on-chain, cryptographically verifiable signal from token holders in terms of what exactly direction token holders want to see this network go. So I think it's a big step forward for our ability to continue evolving EOS. And really that's one of the things I love most about EOS is its ability to evolve over time. And this is hopefully something that will help accelerate that.
Yeah, two thoughts come up real quick. I mean, one is I love Steemit. Like I was such a big Steem and Steemit fan, and that's kind of what I did previous to EOS. One of the tough things about Steemit was the ability to iterate and the ability of like the community voice to kind of be heard and the ability to change the code so that to tweak the incentives. So cool how in EOS we can tweak the code as a community, change the incentives, and then like keep moving forward. Like that iteration is so important, quick iteration. And so that's part of what this voting does, huh?
And until now, the only way block producers could get a sense from the community of what they want them to do is kind of sticking their finger up in Telegram, Reddit, and what you end up getting there is a really skewed kind of perception of what the intent of token holders are, because what you end up hearing is really the loudest voice, not necessarily the most representative voice.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, what a killer tool. I mean, it also is like makes me think of just standard governance. Like in the US, we have a representative democracy where we vote for these representatives and then they go make decisions on our behalf. But it doesn't feel like it makes sense. Like to me, it doesn't feel like my vote matters. But
right. And you very rarely have the opportunity to propose something. Usually in our more traditional democracies, you get to vote on what the people in power put in front of you to vote on. One of the beautiful things about this referendum system is that it's completely open. Anybody in the community can submit a proposal, and it's open. Once it's submitted, it's on chain. Everyone can see it. They can interact with it from whatever platform they're comfortable with. They don't have to go to some special centralized hub of referendum. They can vote likely from the wallet they're already using. It just brings that transparency and ability to really gauge token holder sentiment.
So it sounded like there was a little bit of a push. I don't know if it was a push or maybe just someone said it, but that block producers should be thinking of referendums to propose for the people to vote on or for token holders to vote on. Now, do you kind of see it playing out that way where block producers get these really concise referendums to vote on, or do you think there'll be a lot of actual token holders coming up and proposing referendums?
Yeah, I think we're going to see a bit of both. I'm actually really interested to see, like now that we've built this thing, it's out of our hands. It's this organic thing that's going to evolve on its own through this DPoS system that we're living in, and I'm really excited to kind of see how it does develop. I have some ideas of how it might develop, and I'll take a little step back. My role in this thing, I've been the project manager of the referendum system. I've been working on it for about 6 months, and that's one of the things that we discussed early on is there some kind of a need to control access to the ballot and to prevent, for example, spam? Are we worried that if we let everybody submit anything they want, things like everyone gets a free pony, or we're already seeing some jokes being posted, and it's you look through the list of proposals, there's a long list of proposals. most of them which are probably not something a BP would even be able to take action on. So, it was early on as we were kind of designing the system was, okay, how do we prevent that? Mm-hmm. And do we need to prevent that? And some of the things that were raised as possible solutions are like what you mentioned. Maybe we have a permissioned account controlled by the 15 out of 21 block producers, and that's the only account that could submit a proposal. And it would make sure it goes through some kind of quality assurance process before it gets posted. Mm-hmm. We've thought about kind of a hybrid of that, allowing, maybe the block producers will be one, but allowing other entities to form to become almost like the designated ballot producing entity. But as we went more and more into it, we came to a solution that we think solved it sufficiently that it's not required to do that. And at the same time, we kind of came to the agreement. And really, everybody who's been working on this, I think, is all fully aligned that really we don't have any authority to do things like, another thing that was mentioned is maybe we implement a fee. So in order to submit a proposal, you need to pay, maybe 100 EOS or 50 EOS just to make sure you put a little skin in the game and you're not spamming. And again, what we ultimately decided is we don't have, the only rules that outline how a referendum goes down is in Article 11 of the Constitution. It's very vague. It just says you need 15% participation, 10% more yes than no votes, sustained for 30 days within 120 days. There's nothing in there about who is the authority, who is allowed to propose. There's nothing in there about it having to be proposed through a specific contract. So even if we were to build a system that required fees, there's nothing preventing someone from building an alternative with no fees. Mm-hmm. It's a completely, DPoS, it's completely open. Anybody could have built this referendum system. Nobody gave us permission to. We just looked at, hey, we have the need in the system. Let's build something as open as possible, and hopefully the community will appreciate it and they'll start using it, and it will, help move forward, our progress in the ecosystem.
Yeah, and so there's the possibility that if the referendum, if someone has an idea where they want to add fees or they want to tweak the referendum and see if these different incentives work, maybe a different referendum portal comes out.
Exactly. There's already more than a dozen portals that have, which actually I was very pleasantly surprised. When we were working on this leading up to the launch, I was like, maybe we'll have a handful of UIs that support this. I don't know if you remember back when the mainnet launched, and we had to vote for block producers. Initially there was no portals. Mm-hmm. People had to, if you didn't know how to vote through the command line, you were kind of out of luck. Mm-hmm. And then kind of one after another started to building these portals. And in this case, this is something we've been working on for 6 months, and we've been making sure to engage all of the already existing portals out there to let them know the referendum is coming, inviting them into our Telegram channels to make sure they understand how they can build or tweak their UIs to support the referendum. And again, now, there's over a dozen that are fully supporting it. So, people don't have to relearn a new platform, a new wallet. It's built right in there.
Yeah. On a higher, on a higher level, that's cool to see. EOS, the infrastructure for EOS is kind of part of it's kind of laid, and now we're getting to build these little pieces on top of it. That's exciting to see that when something like the referendum portal launches and there's support for it already within wallets. That's a great sign. Yeah. So cool. Can we give or who else is building, or who else helped build the project? I know you said that you were the project lead. What other teams were involved, and how did this actually get built?
Yeah, EOS Canada was a huge part of this. So they built the smart contract that the referendum is really at the core of this referendum. What the smart contract does is it allows, that's where people can go to place their propose something, so they can put a question on chain and they can vote on that with a value like a yes or a no, or technically it's a 0, 1, 2, 3. But they can make their vote on chain with their account. What it doesn't do is contain any of the logic in terms of, for example, it doesn't care how many EOS you have staked, for example. So that just like with a BP election, a referendum vote is determined. The weight of your vote is determined by the amount of EOS that you have staked. The way that we're tallying how much EOS is staked towards a given proposal and by who is there's an off-chain tally that Denny Carrier, he's our CTO at EOS Nation, he built that. And so most of the UIs are, it's they're looking at the contract and they're looking at the tally and combining that information to display it to the users in the UI. We had Steve Floyd and Anna Taylor involved very early. They designed and helped do all the educational content for our proof of concept portal. So eosvotes.io is the first portal that we built, and it was something that we were building alongside, as we were developing the smart contract and, working through this process. It was kind of our way to test out that the tally was working as expected and to try things out. And it was designed as really an educational first, making a dead simple place where someone, we don't even have an ability to propose things on that portal. It's just look at what's available, vote, and learn. So yeah, they were involved with that from the beginning. EOS 42 actually did the first iteration of our smart contract. We went through, I think, 4 or 5 different iterations maybe. The Gray Mask guys were involved also from the very beginning. They were on all of our calls, I believe, if not most of them, really giving a lot of great insight. So they came from the Steem world, and they had a lot of great insight into DPoS, and they built the Gray Mask voter wallet. So they had a lot of insights to share into how we can make sure that we build this in a way that works nicely with their wallets and provides a good user experience to users using these wallets.
Yeah.
And since then, again, now we've got over a dozen portals. The EOS Cafe one I think is really great. EOS Authorities made a great portal. And again, they're all tailoring different kind of audiences. EOS Votes is a kind of educational, dead simple, just to vote. Other ones make it possible to propose. EOS Authorities they took all the data from the tally that Denny built and have displayed it all in charts and graphs, so you can track the history of votes and pie charts on who's voting and things like that. The guys from EOS Titan build a really great portal that there's a huge amount of flexibility in how you can filter proposals. So going back to that first problem we were talking about in terms of preventing voter apathy, the decision that we finally came to is let the UIs decide individually how to control their user experience. Mm-hmm. If they don't want to subject their users to spam, then they can work that into the design of their UI. And I think Titan did a really great job at really putting the power in the hands of their users to decide how we want to filter. And they also built their own tally tool. Which is really important. Now we don't have just one point of failure with Denny's tally tool. We have an independent tally tool that we can cross-reference and make sure the results are matching. Mm-hmm. And it would be great if others out there are watching and are developers and building tools of their own. If you want to build a tally tool, the more tally tools we have, the better.
Yeah, I love how the free market just kind of is going to push ahead the direction of this, and all these little pieces, everyone building different UI. Different UI is such a big differentiator. You get to see all these different methods play out. And so the foresight to just build kind of the base layer and let the UI fix things on their end is a cool way to approach it.
Exactly. I don't know what the right way. We've never done a referendum on a blockchain like this before, so I don't know what the ultimate UI is. And now we have the opportunity to see all these UIs compete with each other for the best user experience. And if it works out like we've seen it work out in other free market scenarios, is typically the highest quality, best approach is the one that will attract the most users. And likely we'll see kind of norms form. We'll see, this UI is doing some great things. Maybe that will become a standard. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, in a bigger picture, like with a bigger picture thought, it's so cool to see these groups of people governing themselves. I wonder, sometime in the future, if there'll be physical community, I mean, like actual nations and things like that, that have this type of governance. I mean, where everyone has a say, and it's, you know, and it's, yeah, it's going to be interesting. It's going to be really interesting. I mean, it's such a killer experiment. My mind like just goes so many different ways. I know I need to stay on topic, but I love this. I love it.
Oh yeah, I'm totally with you. It's you know, we're literally experimenting with a potential alternative to, you know, this, you know, centralized tyrannical system that so many of us, you know, got involved with EOS because we want to, you know, build that alternative. And, you know, it's not something that we have to fight. We can just keep our heads down, keep building like we're doing. And eventually, if we get this right, you know, it's gonna make the other system obsolete, because no one's gonna want to use that system. They're gonna look at something like EOS and, you know, move with their feet.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. And that's why, I mean, when I got into EOS, the reason that I finally felt like I found something that I was working on, something that I actually loved and felt like it would make a difference in the world. And so it's like, oh, finally, I've been done so many different careers and jobs and things. And when I found EOS, I was like, oh, finally, like something. People always talk about working on what you're passionate about. When I found it, I was like, oh, finally, thank God.
Yeah, exactly. Until October, I was working, you know, in the banking sector, in a financial technology, very cushy, well-paid, lots of benefits. But I didn't feel that meaning in the work I was doing like I do now. And EOS gave me the courage to leave that life behind. You know, I quit that job. I'm dedicated full time now to EOS and EOS Nation, and I feel more fulfilled than I ever have in my life. I'm making way less money. I'm having much less security, but I'm much happier than I ever have been.
Well, that's fantastic, man. That's really cool. And a lot of people don't. My online name is Happy Money Man, and it's not because I have a bunch of money. It's because when I found cryptocurrency and all this, I chose like kind of happiness and fulfillment over like chasing money, which, you know,
right.
Is like, that's kind of the whole theme behind why I started this, man. So yeah, I love to hear that. It's such a cool story, man.
And it's a theme I'm seeing. Again, I don't think you and I are unique in this place. It's something I've seen in our ambassadors at EOS Nation. So, you know, I mentioned it in the pre-show. We've got this ambassador program. They're all volunteers. We've got over 20 ambassadors now located all around the world who are intrinsically motivated to educate their local communities about EOS and the potential it has to change the world. They're extremely enthusiastic. They're doing, you know, hard work, great work. They're not getting paid anything. We're just supporting their costs. You know, we're helping fund their ability to, for example, rent places to host their meetups, and we're providing them with materials and things like that. And again, the feedback we're getting is they're feeling extremely fulfilled. They're getting opportunities that they wouldn't have otherwise had. And again, although they're not being we're not paying them a salary, they're getting, again, these opportunities in their communities that are potentially bringing wealth for them that way. So they're really happy about it. We're really happy about it. And again, this referendum is another example. It was developed by a bunch of volunteers. Every member of the referendum working group, we're all competitors. We're all members of different block producers. None of us have any, you know, there's no way we can monetize this referendum system. But EOS is set up in a way that it aligns incentives in a way that has somehow encouraged competitors from 6 different organizations to come together to collaborate to build something that creates value for the ecosystem. And all because, you know, this DPoS, you know, the way the incentives are aligned, you know, we want to show the community that we're all adding value as block producers. We want to get those votes, and the best way, you know, if you compare EOS to something like Bitcoin or Ethereum, where, you know, it's the hash power that wins. It's just an arms race to build the fastest hashing machine. On EOS, it's who can create the most value for the community. That's how you get elected, and I think it's amazing to see all the value that's being created as a result.
Yeah, I think in the power of like volunteers, that part of the other big picture that the EOS model kind of breaks is this thought that the only driver is like monetary gain, which is which is a big driver, but when that's the only driver, it has some kind of perverse outcomes. But EOS has given these other types of incentives, like fulfillment or working for the community, all of a sudden becomes a big incentive, which is a more natural way to do it. Like the number one driver, I mean, the number one driver is still probably profit, obviously, but
Right.
but all these other drivers make it so cool. And I think the power of all these people volunteering really shows that. That's like kind of a hidden power of the whole thing there. And I can't believe you have 20 ambassadors all over the world. That's pretty rad.
Yeah, it surprised us as much as it surprises you.
And were we talking like a bunch of different countries, or
Yeah.
how spread out are they?
It's all over the place. We've our very first ambassadors, pretty much from the day one when we announced we're going to run from BP, we got interest from 4 ambassadors from Nigeria, and they've been doing an amazing work in growing interest in Africa. And I think there's, places like Africa have some of I think the biggest opportunities to gain from blockchain. And they've been, they've created a Samuel Joseph. He's one of our first ambassadors. Created this. It's the EOS Nation hub. It's he managed to secure a nice big venue that and some office space that a local businessman has donated to him to use for free for the year. And we've been just contributing, things like electricity and buying them some, materials and banners and giving them the supplies they need, air conditioner, just so that he can make the place a little more comfortable. And now it's a hub where he's inviting people from the community to come and learn about EOS and learn the opportunities there are to pull themselves out of the, to make the life better for themselves, and getting out of that traditional rut that, especially in the developing countries, there sometimes lacks opportunity to things like capital that something like EOS can potentially solve.
So as far as the referendum goes, there's already a few posted and already some decent amount of votes. And so what are the most interesting one? If you had to pick one, which one are you most interested in?
I'm really interested in the Rex proposal. So taking a step back, we talked a little bit about this threshold. We have to achieve 15% of voter participation for anything to pass, which is over 150 million EOS needs to be staked towards a proposal in order to even meet that participation threshold to even be considered. It's a really high bar. I think we're going to see very few likely proposals that hit that bar. In order to hit that bar, we really need to get the community kind of behind something that I think is well crafted. It's very easy to, when you read up the proposal, someone reading it needs to understand what exactly the block producers would need to do to implement this. It has to be something that there's already, a lot of support behind, something relatively simple. And to me, the Rex proposal that's been posted, I think is a great example of something that kind of checks all those boxes. If you read the way that they've crafted that proposal, it's very detailed. It's translated in multiple languages. It actually calls out the specific line of code that needs to be tweaked and how. And they followed the ballot craft guide. So there was a separate group that formed as we were working on the referendum, another group of volunteers who kind of saw this problem. Hey, we're going to be launching the referendum system soon. There's no spam filter. Anybody can propose anything they want. We better make sure people know how to propose well. Otherwise, we're never going to hit that threshold. So they spent a lot of time researching the traditional referenda, the which ones were successful and which ones were not, and how were those proposals crafted, and what worked about them and what didn't. At the same time, they were having myself and Josh Kaufman from EOS Canada, who's heavily involved in the project, having us on calls so that they understood the limitations of what we were building, and they kind of combined what they learned about the EOS referendum system, what they learned about how referendums are done in the real world, and they created Brandon Espinoza from Strongblock was really the one who spearheaded this. And it's just a very thorough, well-written guide and it's just a recommendation. Anyone can take this or leave this if they choose to, but the idea is if you want a higher chance at your proposal passing, we've done a lot of research and we think that this is the approach. And it goes into everything, not just on how to write it, but how to engage. You should consider doing things like engaging with block producers ahead of time, trying to get feedback from them on is this implementable, engaging with the community to see is there support, seeing should I be tweaking the language at all, engaging with UI developers to see, hey, maybe we can make this a featured proposal that you can like highlight in your UI. Because that's, again, that power is within the hands of the UI developers. If you convince a UI developer that this is a quality proposal, they can maybe boost your ability to get votes on it by making it like a featured item on their website.
So that makes a lot of sense. It's all like a well-crafted proposal is going to be huge. I mean, really important. And so hopefully,
and Rex is like a no-brainer. Like it's.
Yeah.
I hear Kevin from EOS New York say, you might as well ask it, who wants free money?
So why don't you explain what Rex is? I mean, most people know, but give like a quick explanation of Rex, what that proposal is. Sure.
So the Rex itself actually doesn't need a referenda to be implemented. It's something that many people probably have seen Dan's post on. It's a resource exchange similar to Shintai, more on a protocol level that allows people to, earn income from staking their tokens and loaning it out to the apps that require those CPU resources. In addition, there's an opportunity to, so within EOS, we have the ability to buy premium names and to buy RAM. And both of those markets have fees involved with them. And currently those fees are being collected into a system account that's technically owned by everybody because it's an EOS system account. What this referendum is proposing is that we take the funds that are being collected in this RAM fee account and then this name fee account and adding it to the pool of rewards for Rex. So that would mean basically you would get higher dividends, sort of. You would get a higher payment through your Rex tokens because there's a larger pool of rewards to be distributed.
That's, so that shouldn't be too tough. It's just to get that voter turnout of 15%. What's it at right now?
Last I checked, let me have a look here. I think it's, we've got 9% of the required 15%.
Okay.
So 1.38% of total tokens have turned out, which is about 9% of that threshold that we need to reach. Currently, 99% are in favor.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And once the Rex goes through, a lot of other things start happening. And one of those things starts happening is there's probably better turnout for block producer voting because now it gives the ability for a token holder to vote for a block producer and stake their tokens. Right now, there's kind of an opportunity cost to voting for block producers because then you don't get to stake over in Shintai or lease out your tokens in Shintai.
Right.
That'll solve.
So now you get the best of both. You're still staking and earning and also incentivized. From what I understand, there's going to be a requirement to vote for a minimum amount of BPs in order to qualify to earn. So that's going to likely cause more people to participate, which I think is good, as long as they're making informed decisions.
Mm-hmm.
I think the fact that we have this proxy system is a long way to that. And the fact that token holders have skin in the game is an incentive for them to take a little bit of that extra time to make sure they're not just ticking off the top 30 in the list because that's easy.
Mm-hmm.
That hopefully they take a little bit of time, invest making a wise choice.
Yeah, the other thing that the other part of the little game there is that if you stake your tokens in Shintai, there's also kind of sometimes an opportunity cost there if there's an airdrop. I don't know if I think some of those airdrops you possibly miss if you have your tokens staked.
With Shintai, technically you're sending your tokens to another smart contract. It's no longer in your possession. I believe that is correct. That if a snapshot happens at that time when your tokens are no longer in your wallet, you're going to be missing out. Mm-hmm. Which I don't think would be the case in Rex. That being said, I do think there's still, Shintai still has a market to serve. I think there's a minimum of 30 days for Rex. We've seen on Shintai that I think the hottest market are the 7-day markets. Mm-hmm. So I think Shintai will continue to serve a purpose. Rex serves a unique purpose. It's going to, again, has that added benefit of encouraging more voting. I'm excited to see the impact, assuming this is something that passes. It'd be interesting to see how it impacts turnout.
Yeah, I just keep thinking what a fun, great experiment this is. It's like all the incentives you've always wanted to see, and now we get to actually have them and see how they work. So
right. And we got side chains we can experiment with too, so that's kind of cool.
Yeah, exactly. As far as the portal goes, is there any other things that pop up? Are you kind of focused on the Rex? Just get that pushed through, and we'll take care of see how other things play out later. Is there anything else you're interested in as far as votes on the referendum right now?
I would say Rex is the one I've been paying the closest attention to. Obviously, it's interesting to see the ECAF proposal currently being the number one most voted proposal. I think it just speaks to kind of the sentiment of that we've kind of assumed for the last little while. I think we've kind of through our Telegram conversations kind of have had the sense that the community is, fed up with ECAF, and now we're seeing them kind of the community put their money where their mouth is and stake that on the chain. Not something, again, it's something that I've found interesting watching it. But I've been really focused on doing things like this, trying to help continue educating people the referendum system exists. Get out there and vote. If you have any questions, you know where you can find me. Josh and EOS Canada and all the other contributors, and even people outside of the Referendum Working Group, I've already noticed are now kind of taking up that mantle to educate the community. Now it's in the hands of the community. And people are putting out videos, they're putting out articles, they're answering questions. So at this point, I'm kind of wrapping up my involvement, just doing things like this, and been now actually focusing more on my next project, which is the EOS Lost Key initiative that I've been working on.
Cool. Well, let's put a bow on this part a little bit. Why don't you, if someone is just kind of discovering this or hasn't voted yet, what's the easiest way for someone to pop in and vote for or against the Rex? What's the easiest way to make this happen?
Sure. The two that I would say are the most, if you're looking for the dead simple basic, I just want to vote, EOS Votes is a good place to start because of the education. Another one, I think, the blocks.io, they have a really great user-friendly, it's laid out very nicely and easy to just see all the proposals and just get in and out and vote. So those are, I would say, the two most user-friendly for a layman person. EOS Authority, go into there if you want to really dig into the data and see how the vote breakdown works. And Titan would be a great place if you want to filter your results and things like that and check out their own tally.
Cool. So there, if you're listening to this, there is your call to action today or right now. Get on your computer, go to one of those sites just mentioned, and take 5 minutes and be a part of the community.
And if you're someone who prefers, if you're using the GrayMass wallet, for example, you're not a fan of Scatter, you can vote right from your GrayMass wallet too.
Cool. So let's hear about the Lost Keys initiative, the next kind of endeavor here. That's hugely important as well. What's that? What's the roadmap look like for that?
Sure. Yeah, we actually just met this morning to check in. It was our fourth weekly meeting that we've been holding since we've started having these meetings. For those who don't have the context, back before EOS launched, many of us bought EOS through the token sale, and we were holding them kind of as placeholder tokens on the Ethereum network. And there was a process that we needed to go through to register our, generate an EOS key and register our Ethereum key to those EOS keys. A lot of people in the community have either lost those EOS keys or were victims of some kind of a phishing scam, where the website where they generated those EOS keys actually gave them fake ones. Or for one reason or another, they're not able to access their true EOS tokens now, but they do still have access to their old Ethereum key. And there, you probably, if you've been following along EOS, you may have noticed the recent ECAF controversy. The first kind of big order that came from ECAF recently, just before the new year, was one of these cases. And through the research some of the members of the community have been doing, we found there's over 300 accounts that have identified, I'm impacted, about 1 million EOS or more. And ECAF's approach was looking at these cases one at a time and issuing an order to block producers to give them new keys. And what we found was that didn't get approved. Obviously, it's not something that the block producers saw was scalable or within ECAF's, jurisdiction. However, it is a legitimate problem. I know there are legitimate people out there with, property that belongs to them that they can't access, and they have a way to prove it. So what we're starting to do is build a tool that allows you. It's an automated system that lets you to prove your ownership of your EOS account by signing a transaction with your Ethereum private key. And it's all through, smart contracts on the back end. And a lot of the work was already done previously by the guys at EOS Authority, EOS DAC, EOS 42, EOS Mediterranean, Argentina. They were working on previous projects to kind of try to help with these various situations. And now we're kind of just taking all that work and bringing it up to a standard and kind of closing all the loops or closing all the loose ends to actually have a system where that can be deployed on chain and automated.
So would this be something that came up for a referendum vote, or is this something that you can just put a tool out there for people to use?
Based on our perspective, there's no need to have a referendum for this. Cool.
Yeah, I have one of my buddies who I got into blockchain when the EOS crowd sale was going on, and ICOs weren't even really a thing yet. There was just, they weren't a big thing. It was just like you log in and you send it to this random ETH account. It was pretty easy actually, but of course that was the first I just threw him in the deep end, okay, just do this. You got to buy this EOS. Just forget about it. Don't worry. Well, he did. And anyway, the EOS he bought, he lost his key. He doesn't know where his EOS key is. So he's got it sitting in this ETH wallet where he can see it, but can't do anything with it.
Right.
He calls me once a month, hey, what's up with my EOS? Sorry, dude, just be patient. It'll be okay. So
yeah.
It's
definitely, I know people personally as well. This before I started working on it. That's one of the things that got me interested in getting involved, is because I personally know people in my local community who are impacted. It's not a small. They've got a significant investment that is currently locked up. As a result, they have negative feelings towards EOS. Because when they bought these tokens, they kind of had this. This process should have been safer. Mm-hmm. The fact that I had to register my wallet, that was an attack vector. The fact that I was told that EOS has the ability for key recovery when I invested. So there are these expectations by a lot of these users when they invested. That is, now 6 months later, they're still, understandably starting to get fed up that they don't have access to their EOS tokens. So yeah, I'm really excited to get this out there. Again, this is not going to solve all lost key cases. This is just for those those Genesis accounts. and for people who still can prove their ownership by signing with that Ethereum key.
Yeah. Well, that's great. Do you think in the future that will expand into lost keys aside from Genesis accounts? I mean, the Genesis accounts make sense because if you can still prove your ETH key, then that's simple. But is there a solution you think on the drawing board outside of that?
Potential. It's not something that we're looking at in this group. The way I would see that playing it is probably some kind of like a second layer solution that you would opt into.
Okay.
Unless we right now there's still that debate on whether we have base layer arbitration or not.
Mm-hmm.
So depending on how that debate pans out, I don't know what the right answer there is. But we have a referendum system now. We can hopefully start getting an idea of token holder sentiment on that issue. But if it's on the base layer, then there's something that maybe at the protocol level that can be built. If not, I see it being a second layer, almost like a DApp that you sign up to with some kind of like a custodial. Maybe it's a multi-sig act. There's some way where you have parties who can help you recover your funds.
Yeah. So you basically say, yeah, you can hold my private key in a secure account for me and give me access to it through biometrics or something. And then you have this DApp, but I'm opting in and I know that I'm giving my key to someone else and I'm trusting you with it, but I'm going to do that because I want the security of if I lose it, I'm going to log back in with my thumbprint and my retinas.
And at least now you have the choice. If it's at the base layer, then you're stuck having to trust whatever that base layer arbitration system ends up being, which perhaps is just as susceptible to corruption as any non-base layer system.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's those kind of more mass adoption, more mainstream tweaks like that are going to be important because as people in the crypto community, we love security and making sure everything's tight and done correctly. But most people, they're not interested in that at all. They just want access as soon as possible and for it to look pretty, and so yeah, those will be important developments. The UX is 2019 is a big push towards UX, I think. So that'll be, cool. So you also mentioned sidechains and our ability to experiment there. What do you see in sidechains right now that's interesting to you?
Just that there's a bunch of them, and they're all doing different things. They all seem to be focusing on a different aspect that they're experimenting with. Just today the Boss chain launched, and that seems to they're targeting really DApp developers, making it cheap for them to and highly scalable for them to get on early and then move them onto the mainnet. We've got Orbly obviously doing the kind of the financial aspect, KYC built in. I think that's interesting. And there's Telos is doing their thing. They're all trying different things slightly, and we get to watch and see what's working, what's not, and the things that work we can pick and choose and integrate them into the mainnet, and the things that don't we can not.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Can you talk a little bit more about Boss Chain, because that almost felt like it came from, I didn't see a lot of hype, let's say, or media about Boss Chain, and and there's not a lot. It's not real easy to research. Can you, for people who don't know much about it, give like a little small whatever you know about it?
I don't know a whole lot, unfortunately. I wish I could give more insight. So we are a block producer on the Boss network, but that's not been one of the files I personally have been focused on. It's something Eve and Denny from my team have been heavily involved getting ready to launch that and all that. So my understanding of Bosch is I've pretty much just seen what's been going out around there. So I can't really speak in too much detail on Boss.
Okay. Well, I can't either, so we should probably end the discussion before I start rambling about stuff I don't know about. But I'll dig in. Obviously, I love digging into this new stuff and learn. That's why I do the podcast. That's why I started it. Just because I can just ask people questions and saves me time. So
That's right. That's right.
I attempted it there with Boss Chain, but it didn't work, unfortunately.
Yeah, unfortunately, I've been way too narrowly focused on my referendum, my lost keys, and building my my local Toronto community has been taking up all of my headspace pretty much.
Yeah, we've only got so much CPU, I guess, even for ourselves here. So you gotta limit. You gotta whatever. Take care of your resources. But
That's right.
So we've covered a lot of general EOS, specifically for EOS Nation. I mean, the lost keys, the crafting the proposal system here. You've got ambassadors. Is there anything else that's a lot? Is there anything else kind of big that you guys are up to that what's going on right now?
Did you see the news that Nathan Rempel has joined our team?
Oh, wow. No, that's cool.
So, yeah, we're very excited about that. He's in our eyes, he was kind of probably the most experienced, well-rounded EOS smart contract developer out there. And we managed to get him on board our team as a partner. He's going to be helping us. Basically, we're going to be looking for opportunities in the ecosystem, things that need smart contract developers, and getting him involved in those type of projects.
Wow.
As a result, he's no longer with GenerEOS.
Mm-hmm.
So he's kind of dedicated to us, along with his Parcel and Karma. I think he's still involved with.
Mm-hmm.
So that we're expecting to see more involvement from EOS Nation in terms of developing of various projects out there. So we're excited about that. I think I mentioned to you in the pre-show, I've been focused a lot in growing our community in Toronto. Toronto is a huge hotbed for Ethereum developers. It's where Ethereum was born, and we're hoping to build a very large competing EOS community in Toronto. I'm slowly converting one Ethereum developer after another over to EOS, and in fact, that's what after we get off this call, I'm going to be heading down to facilitate an EOS developer workshop in Toronto, and that's something that we're hoping that we can scale. We're starting here in Toronto, but we talked about our ambassador program. If we develop a good quality developer workshop program, we can expand that to our ambassadors around the world, and hopefully get more and more developers. They've got the developer and blockchain skills. They just need a little bit of hand-holding and a nudge to help accelerate their journey into EOS. So that's something I'm really excited about. And yeah, again, we got a large team. Everybody's chipping away at various things in the ecosystem. We got folks working on an education platform. We've got Eve very dedicated to the governance and building bridges with the East and the West, and looking for opportunities for Nathan, for example. Where is the best place to add value, and where should we deploy our talent and our skills? He's been doing a great job on that. And then, we're getting involved in these side chains. Denny's our CTO. He's kind of making sure that we've got nodes operating quality on all these side chains. In the meantime, we're in the process of transitioning to bare metal.
Cool.
So that's another thing we're excited about. We already have our bare metal servers running on testnet. Mm-hmm. It's performing really. We're really happy with the performance, and I think our goal is definitely this quarter to be transitioned on the mainnet onto our new bare metal infrastructure.
Cool. And the bare metal, excuse me, are we talking about renting bare metal in a somewhere, or are you talking about building your own data center?
Yeah, we're building our own. So we've already, it's currently like running in in a test environment, but we're going to be actually renting out space in a data center but we'll have our own machine that we'll bring. It's going to be just hooked into their extremely fast internet and very high reliability, and we'll continue to have cloud backups. In case it goes down, we still have cloud and as well other bare metal options.
Cool. So do you see that kind of as the security standard, or like, the highest bar would be your own bare metal servers, because then block producers can have their bare metal decentralized all over the world, backed up by the cloud if it's going down? You think that's kind of the standard?
Yeah, and it's not just security; it's also performance. Like
okay.
if you look at the what you want to look at on the main net is the CPU speed of all the different block producers, and basically like a 1 millisecond, a little bit less than 1 millisecond of CPU time is the fastest anyone has managed to get, and everyone who has managed to do that are on bare metal.
Okay.
So if you look at like Attic Lab and EOS Rio, they're two examples of BPs who have managed to set up bare metal infrastructure, tweak them very well to get them basically as fast as possible. The only way that we've noticed that makes it possible to get to that level of performance is to have your own hardware that you can tweak accordingly, because when you're relying on a cloud provider, they don't have the options available that you need to, for example, really optimize it for single-threaded CPU performance.
I see. Okay. I didn't know that was the such a big part of it, but that makes sense. So what's the direct effect on transaction speed is there a direct line between that and the transaction speed that a user is going to see on the mainnet?
Denny would be able to speak to that better. I believe so. I think there would be some, like, I think to get ultimately you want like all of it's like the weakest chain in the link can slow things down.
Yeah.
So to truly see the benefit, we need more and more BPs to kind of get to that level. But I do think it would have, for the blocks that we're producing for that, half second or whatever that round that we're in, it improves with that. And I think it improves with things like our handoffs. But that's not my area of expertise.
Okay, cool. Well, exciting. I love to learn about all this stuff. Is there anything else that we've kind of glossed over? The bare metal, the Nathan coming over, well, that's big news. That's like a big baseball trade or something, right?
It's exactly what we've been calling it. It's like it's a big unrestricted free agent deal that we signed. Yeah. I'm more of a hockey fan in Toronto, so I compared it with this is like a John Tavares level free agent signing, and we didn't have to give up any draft picks.
Yeah, that's fantastic. That's so cool. Yeah, we got the Sharks out here. I go to some Sharks games every once in a while. We're usually pretty good enough to make it in the playoffs, but we don't put the cup above our heads ever. So
I'm feeling pretty good about the Leafs this year.
Yeah. Okay. Is that your team, the Leafs?
Yeah, Toronto guy, born and raised. So they've always been my team.
How cool! Did you play hockey when you were a youngster?
Never. It was a lot of pond hockey, road hockey. I never got serious into it.
Yeah, that's what I think of when I think of hockey in Canada. I think of the kids like out skating around on the pond, like playing.
Yeah.
So,
and the summertime was on the rollerblades.
Oh yeah, cool, cool.
Yeah.
Well, this has been a really fun show. As we're winding down here, any final thoughts, and then places that people can find you?
Yeah, check out eosnation.io. That's our website. I'll share with you. Maybe you can post a link to the referendum launch announcement Medium posts. From there, we've got links to all kinds of different resources. So it's a good place to start. I guess my call to action is just get out there, get engaged, vote. We definitely want to see at least one of those proposals hit the threshold. I encourage you to have a look at the Rex proposal. If you want free money, go ahead and stake your votes towards it, and hopefully we'll see some change driven directly from token holders soon. Killer.
Well, I will put a link in the show notes for the referendum so people can go vote. On my end, the EOS Podcast. My EOS Podcast friends, listen to the actual podcast. You can go to the eospodcast.com. Thank you, Ash Oro, for hooking me up with the eospodcast.com. That was really cool, Ash.
Nice.
You can find the podcast there because then when you're at work and you're supposed to be working, you can really have your earbuds in and you can be listening to the EOS Podcast and getting EOS smart.
Cool.
San Francisco block producer. We are all about transparency, building together, and empowerment for the community. So check us out. We're having a good time just helping out. So EOS San Francisco. And that's the show. Thank you for coming on, Daniel. I really appreciate your time today, man.
Thanks for having me. I had a great time chatting.
Yeah, cheers.
Take care.
The money is not the prime asset in life. Time is, and your time is just a